if you find that 24 hours a day just isn't enough to do everything you want in terms of projects and ideas, and you feel overwhelmed because you've hit a glass ceiling with the amount of time you have for everything you need to do, listen carefully to what I have to say. By the way, between us, haven't you ever experienced that syndrome where you keep putting off this task, that administrative thing that just annoys you, telling yourself, oh, it's going to be too hard, it's going to be a headache, it's going to take up my time, it's going to be a pain. Eventually, you find some motivation, you do it, and you say to yourself, oh, actually, that went quickly, and you feel super light and relieved. The problem is, we tend to drag this burden around for far too long. If you want to stop dragging it around, if you want to stop procrastinating and understand why you procrastinate and especially how to turn things around without guilt and without stressing yourself, out there are the nuggets of wisdom I have for you. Welcome, I'm Johnny Yangqing, author of the book Regain Your Time and Energy, my latest release. If you're interested, you'll find it below. And it's now been over 15 years that I've been talking about productivity and organization, and the phrase I hear most often is, I don't have enough hours in the day to get everything done. Especially my friends who juggle multiple projects, multi-potentialites who have 10,000 ideas, 10,000 projects, but also all the little things we have to do when we try to be organized, we still think, I don't have time for all that. Paperwork, tedious tasks, follow-ups, emails, you have to do this thing, it just gets on your nerves. And so, sometimes we just sweep it under the rug, but after a while, what's under the rug is going to come out. So, no, let me tell you one thing. There's actually no need to feel guilty about this. Because as I often say, the real reason for procrastination is that our brain is there for our safety. So it tries to avoid anything that's painful, unpleasant, anything it perceives as a threat. And there are things, even though today we are no longer threatened in terms of survival in our daily lives, at home, we still have this reptilian brain that puts us in survival mode when it comes to tasks that feel like threats. These can be tasks that expose us to fears, especially the fear of being judged, like if you have to call someone, do some prospecting, and so on. If you need to make a video but you're not doing it, there might be fears like that involved. There's also the fear that it will be unpleasant, that it will drain your energy. Because unpleasantness and all that come at an energy cost, and for our survival, we need energy to survive. Sometimes it's also the fear of making mistakes, the fear that it could lead to a disaster or having to face a problem. In short, there are plenty of reasons like that. There's a huge list in life, but it's often connected to that. It's often linked to procrastination. It's a signal our brain sends us about something it considers not good for us. So that's the reflex that makes us avoid doing things that are a bit more unpleasant. But there's also the other side of procrastination, which happens more because of prioritization problems. For example, you say, I want to take more time for myself to exercise. I want to take more time for myself to maybe read more often. I want to continue this training because when you work on my book that I'm currently writing, I actually procrastinated a bit at one point with my book, and I'll tell you what got me out of that. In fact, it's because we get a bit caught up in urgencies, in things, in our tasks, and so we end up putting that aside. And since we put it aside, as we've prioritized other things, sometimes without meaning to, because we choose to spend time on them, even if it's not necessarily the most relevant, it becomes a priority for us. Even if it's just entertainment, if you did it before other things, it's a priority for you. So in the end, the other things get pushed back. So there are also things in our minds that we don't take the time to do. We'll say, I don't take the time to do it. And it's really important to say it that way. It's not about saying, I don't have the time to do it. It's about saying, I don't take the time to do it. You know, it's not a problem of time. It's a problem of priority. I'll say it again. So if we keep putting this off, the big problem that develops over time is that we end up creating regrets. We create regrets by telling ourselves, actually, I didn't take the time to take care of myself. I didn't take the time for my loved ones. I always had an excuse to spend time on something else. So I believe the solution for both cases rest assured is the same. That is to say, in any case, whether you're putting off something unpleasant or postponing something important that you know is good for you, but you're not doing it, the solution is the same. This solution is not about forcing yourself more. It's not just about telling yourself you need to be disciplined, to force yourself and so on. No, there's a much gentler approach that I also develop. I talk about it in the book if you want to discover everything around this topic, but I'll give you the tip. It's actually about accepting this. It's really counterintuitive, accepting that in your life, there are things that simply won't get done. And now you're going to say, no way, what are you talking about? And so on. I'm not telling you to give up on everything. I'm just saying you absolutely have to accept that in life, there are certain things you might not always have the necessary time or might not ever truly take the time to fully do. There are books you won't read. There are movies you won't see. There are series you won't finish. There are courses you won't finish or won't take. There are people you spend less time with. That's life. I think you have to trust a bit in a kind of natural selection of time. Natural selection, maybe there are things, and actually that's okay. We didn't take the time to do them, but it's really been too long. Did we really want them? That book we left lying around, gathering dust on a shelf, did we really want to read it after buying it? Just like 10,000 other books, even though we already have a to-read pile and we keep getting new ones? Usually when you really want a book that you like, you'll make time for it and read it pretty quickly. Even with courses, sometimes we dive right in and get started immediately. But that's okay. I'm not saying this is the ultimate solution. And I'm not saying that you should only do this. Just say, I don't care, and that's it. I'm just saying that you have to accept that there are some things that you can't do. You have to accept that there is this notion of, it's the opposite of FOMO, fear of missing out. The fear of missing out on opportunities, while telling yourself that it's okay, you're going to miss out on opportunities, and I accept it, I tolerate it. Now, the second thing is to prioritize. And here, for once, you really have to take some time, either by yourself, to ask yourself what is truly important in your life. Because as I said, natural selection, we prioritize. The problem is sometimes we prioritize unconsciously, but we end up creating regrets because we didn't take the time to step back. Because if you tell yourself that natural selection means time with your family got cut out, and the day they are no longer there, you have regrets, then there was a problem. It means you didn't take the time to realize and become aware that your family is important to you. There may be some people who don't care, who are listening to us, but once again, there are no rules except for your own priorities. So take some time to say to yourself, okay, in my life, with all these things I want to do, I take the time to write them down. What really counts as a priority? What is important to me in my life? What matters in my life? Take some time for that, reflect. Really take the time to sort through your life. I invite you, if you wish, to check out my program that I created, Audit and Introspection, which helps you take stock of your life whenever you want, whenever you need it, even several times a year. It's a guided method that I use myself, and that's exactly why I offered it. Plus, there are discounts. If you check it out in time during the summer, you get discounts. Otherwise, well, if you look at it later, too bad. But get it anyway if you're interested. You'll find information in the description. It's a program I created that helps you take a step back to reprioritize. But here, what I would actually tell you, what you can do, is just list everything you say you don't have time to do and ask yourself, in my life, what matters most? Family, my health, etc. And to rank them and say to yourself, if today I'm not taking the time to do these workout sessions, even though for me, health and taking care of myself are extremely important, I become aware of that. In fact, just becoming aware of what is a priority. It's really, everything starts with awareness. And when we have that awareness, that's when we take back control. How do you take back control? You'll see, I promised you a tip. Actually, it's really simple. It creates commitment. It's about blocking it off in your calendar. It's as simple as blocking things off in your calendar, committing yourself to doing that thing. The annoying thing, a typical example, in May, when it was time to do the tax return, for me, that's something that really gets on my nerves. And I think, oh no, it's going to stress me out again. I'll have to fill in boxes. Plus, I have an aversion to paperwork. It's going to drive me crazy. And also, actually, every time in the end I do it, it goes well. It goes pretty quickly, faster than I imagined. I don't know why it annoys me, and so I put it off. So what did I do? At one point, I set aside an afternoon in my calendar. I blocked out a time slot, fill out my declaration, and I committed to it. I intentionally blocked that time. Actually, it's not just about blocking time in the calendar. It's the intention of telling myself that I prioritize time for this. There are plenty of ways to do it. For example, for sports, I block it out in my calendar. For the people I love, I block out time in my calendar in fact, it becomes sacred. What you need to prioritize is blocking it in your calendar, whether it's a one-time thing or recurring. For me, actually, there are times in my week that are non-negotiable moments for myself, which are blocked off. There are always exceptions. There are always special cases, but in most cases, I stick to them. So if you want to stop procrastinating, create a commitment, an intention that's blocked out in your calendar. By blocking it out, something happens in your brain. Honestly, give it a try. At first, it'll be, the more you do it, the more you increase your chances. But if even with that, you still can't manage, what you can do is always give yourself a buffer if there's a deadline, but more importantly, set a deadline, create a commitment with a due date. I talked about this in my talk 60 Seconds to Overcome Procrastination that I gave at the Grand Summit of Motivation some time ago, which was a talk that was really appreciated by everyone who attended, both in person and online. And actually, I explained that when there's no deadline, we keep putting things off. The things you keep putting off, you'll actually never get them done because there's no deadline, no endpoint. Setting yourself a deadline is one of the most powerful anti-procrastination hacks. If you're procrastinating about a sport, maybe sign up for a competition, something with a deadline. For example, I know that at one point, having a deadline for the book, I'm telling you this because I made a vlog about it. I shared the behind the scenes. I made a vlog. I'll put it below. I shared all the behind the scenes from the 2.5 months from up until the book launch. Do you know what I did? I set a date for an event where I was going to unveil the book in June 2025. That date forced me to have the book ready by then. So I had a deadline. That deadline was concrete. I could still, because with a book, actually, it's never really finished. Otherwise, I keep going back, adding things, taking things out. So setting a deadline committed me. So give yourself deadlines. And then one last tip, just start. Don't overthink it. Make starting as simple as possible and just begin. If you keep putting it off, just declare it, just start, get into it. Don't overthink, just go for it, just begin. Whatever it is you have to do writing, for example, you open the document and you start. Basically, it's about creating a trigger in a few seconds and committing yourself to start. And it's actually a tip that's given in Good Habits. I also mention it in the book. It's about creating, instead of setting up big habits like running 10 kilometers every day or twice a week, whatever, or doing big things like writing 10 pages of your book all the time. It's just about committing to start. And actually, when you start, you get into it. That's what flow is. Once you've started, it's easier to keep going. And that's also why when it comes to organization, interruptions and being interrupted, cut off, etc. That's what kills your momentum. So that's why this tip is so useful. It gets you into it and helps you move forward. Honestly, if you put this into practice, I guarantee you, and I'm telling you, if you use these little hacks I've shared, it's already going to help you a lot with this. So really, I'm telling you, the idea is to first take a good look at your life, to sort out what's truly important and what really matters, and to be deeply, deeply aware of it within yourself. Then, thanks to that, you'll really be able to prioritize and establish a concrete hierarchy so you can plan what is recurring and what is occasional in your schedule, get used to setting deadlines, and make a habit of getting started. If you do this, in most cases, you'll manage to make better progress. Once again, we're not robots. I'm not saying that there's an ultimate miracle solution that will work every time. I'm just saying that, in fact, it should be more often about making progress than about procrastinating. And you can tip the balance with the advice I've given. And if you want more, check the description. You can get the book if you want to work in depth, because here I only talked about this specific topic. Of course, there's a whole more holistic aspect of understanding yourself, your rhythms, and so on that you can work on more deeply, which will also make it easier to take action, make progress, and everything else. So the book is a good starting point for that. And if you want to work on what really matters in your life and do a real assessment of your life, I've also put all those resources in the description. So you have the resources I mentioned for those who want to go further. And whatever happens, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you very soon. Take care of yourself.